It all started on a sunny Saturday morning in my suburban neighborhood, the kind of place that looks perfect in real estate ads but hides a lot behind manicured lawns and neatly trimmed hedges. I was in the front yard with my 6-month-old son Lucas, enjoying a rare moment of peace. The sun was warm, the birds were chirping, and I had finally managed to get him to nap in his stroller while I sipped my coffee. It was idyllic, almost unreal, like a postcard. I felt grateful for these quiet moments, knowing how rare they were with a newborn in the house. My house sits on a quiet street, lined with identical 2-story homes, all with freshly painted exteriors and spotless lawns. We'd moved here last year, excited about the sense of community, the walking trails, and the schools. It felt safe, but in the back of my mind, there was always a hint of tension. I'd heard whispers about the HOA president, Mrs. Hargrove. She was infamous in our neighborhood, the kind of person who had a keen eye for every little violation, from the height of grass blades to the color of doormats. I'd never had a problem with her personally, and I tried to avoid drawing attention to myself. That morning, I was simply enjoying a rare moment outside. Lucas was cooing and giggling, the sun highlighting his soft brown hair. A gentle breeze ruffled the blanket I'd tucked around him, and for a moment, I forgot about everything else. Then, I noticed a shadow on the driveway. It was Mrs. Hargrove. Her heels clicked sharply on the pavement, echoing in the quiet street. She was holding a clipboard, her expression stern, eyes narrowing as she looked at my yard. I tried to smile politely. "Good morning," I said, hoping a friendly greeting might diffuse whatever this was about. But she didn't respond. She just started walking toward me, her pace deliberate, clipboard clutched like a weapon. I felt a tightening in my chest. Something in her demeanor was immediately alarming. Normally, I would have assumed this was just another complaint about lawn maintenance, maybe an overgrown bush, or a misplaced decoration. But there was something different this time. Her steps carried authority, almost aggression, and when she reached me, she didn't ask how I was or make small talk. Instead, she pointed at Lucas and barked, "You can't let your child play out here. You're violating HOA rules." I blinked, unsure whether to laugh or cry. "Just enjoying the morning with him," I stammered. "There's nothing in the rules that says I can't sit in my own driveway." Her eyes narrowed further. "It's still a violation. You need to bring the baby inside now." Something in her tone sent chills down my spine. It wasn't just strictness, it was a threat. And I had no idea this simple morning was about to spiral into a nightmare. I picked Lucas up from the stroller and held him close, hoping that proximity would calm him, and maybe, just maybe, show Mrs. Hargrove that I was being reasonable. But she didn't seem to care. Her eyes were sharp, her posture rigid. "You need to stop this," she said, gesturing vaguely toward the street. "I've had complaints." I froze. Complaints? From who? Our neighborhood barely had anyone outside on a Saturday morning, and no one had ever approached me before. "Who complained?" I asked, trying to maintain a calm voice. "Doesn't matter," she snapped. "I'm authorized to enforce HOA rules. Step inside, or I'm calling the authorities." My heart started pounding. Lucas, sensing my tension, began to fuss, his little arms flailing. I tried to comfort him while still keeping my voice steady. "Ma'am, I'm not breaking any law. I'm on my own property. Please, just calm down." Her face twisted into something unrecognizable, a mix of anger and righteous indignation. And then, without warning, she reached toward Lucas's stroller, trying to grab him from my arms. "I can't let you do this," she said. I was stunned. My instincts kicked in. I hugged Lucas tighter. "Don't you dare," I shouted, my voice trembling. My neighbors, who had started coming outside to see what was happening, stopped in shock at the sudden escalation. Mrs. Hargrove didn't back down. "I will call the cops if you don't comply," she warned, pulling out her phone. Her fingers were already tapping rapidly, presumably dialing. I could feel the tension in the air thickening, almost like a physical force pressing against my chest. In that moment, I realized the situation had gone far beyond a simple HOA dispute. This woman had crossed a line. She wasn't enforcing rules, she was trying to assert control. And Lucas was the unknowing victim caught in the middle. I felt a surge of anger, but I also knew I had to stay calm. Any sudden movement could make her call the authorities faster, and I didn't want to risk Lucas's safety. I took a deep breath and tried reasoning one more time. "I am not breaking any HOA rules, and you do not have the right to remove my child from my arms. Please leave my property." She didn't budge, and that's when she pressed the call button. The sound of the phone dialing echoed like a drumbeat of impending chaos. I could feel Lucas trembling in my arms, probably picking up on my stress. A few neighbors had come to the edge of their lawns, murmuring and whispering, clearly torn between curiosity and fear. One older man shouted, "Is she serious?" Seconds later, we heard the approaching sirens. The HOA had apparently made good on their threat. My stomach sank. I felt helpless, like the entire world had turned against me for simply enjoying a sunny morning with my child. When the police arrived, Mrs. Hargrove was already explaining the situation, her voice exaggerated, painting me as an uncooperative, dangerous parent. I tried to speak, tried to clarify, but the officers' expressions were unreadable. They weren't immediately hostile, but there was a bureaucratic rigidity that made it clear they were taking her claims seriously. "Ma'am, can you step aside and let us assess the situation?" one officer asked. I nodded, holding Lucas close as I explained that I was on my own property and simply enjoying time with my baby. I showed them the HOA guidelines, the ones I had reviewed multiple times since moving in. Nothing mentioned that a parent couldn't sit in their driveway with their child. Mrs. Hargrove, of course, had printed out a vague section of the HOA bylaws and highlighted it in yellow, twisting the words to make it sound threatening. "See," she said, "the rules are clear. You cannot endanger the neighborhood's standards." I felt my face flush with a mix of fury and disbelief. Endanger? I'm holding my 6-month-old in my own driveway. How is that endangering anyone? The officers looked back and forth between us. They were polite, but I could tell they were used to handling neighborhood disputes like this. Still, the tension in the air was palpable. Lucas had started crying loudly, his little fists pounding against my chest. The sight of him distressed, combined with the absurdity of the confrontation, pushed me to the edge. I realized at that moment that Mrs. Hargrove had crossed every boundary imaginable. It wasn't about rules anymore. It was about control, power, and intimidation. After what felt like hours but was likely only 20 minutes. The police confirmed what I had already known. There was no legal basis for Mrs. Hargrove to remove Lucas from my arms. They advised her to stop harassing me, and I finally felt a measure of relief. But relief was bittersweet. The confrontation had left me shaken. My baby had cried more than he ever had, and I could still feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The neighborhood, which once felt like a safe haven, now seemed like a minefield. I knew Mrs. Hargrove would be back, looking for another opportunity to assert her authority. I spent the rest of the day indoors, holding Lucas, reflecting on how a quiet Saturday morning had turned into a battle over something that should have been simple, enjoying time with my child. I posted a warning on our neighborhood app, careful to remain factual, and received dozens of messages from neighbors who had witnessed the incident. Many expressed support, some admitted they had dealt with Mrs. Hargrove's aggressive tactics before, and others offered advice on legal recourse. That night, as Lucas slept peacefully in my arms, I realized something important. The HOA may have rules, and some neighbors may take them too seriously, but nothing, absolutely nothing, justifies threatening a parent or endangering a child. This experience left me wary, but also more determined to protect my family and stand my ground. And as for Mrs. Hargrove, she may have her clipboard and her phone, but I had something far stronger: the truth and the right to care for my child without fear.